It's watch list time. Let's start it with you, Kevin, this week. What's on your watch list?
I got a lot of stuff to try and run through real quick. First thing I forgot to talk about this on the last show, but I got two shorts. One you can watch right now for free on either at nobudge.com or on Vimeo it's a 16 millimeter short film by Sam Kuhn called In Search of the Miraculous, and it's kind of in memory of Dutch conceptual artist Bastiaan Adder, and it's kind of him like reenacting some of his performances and whatnot. And I don't know why or for what reason, but I just thought it was perhaps one of the best things I've seen all year. Just I loved absolutely everything about it. It's just completely full of beauty and wonder, and I just absolutely I watched it I think like 12 times now.
Wow.
Yeah, I watched it like 12 times. I've been obsessed with it.
Hmm.
It's fantastic. I definitely say check that out. And then another one is Disco Inferno. It's like a horror short from Alice Waddington.
I saw
And
this one.
did you see this one?
Mm-hmm.
The black and white imagery. Ooh,
Uh,
oh boy.
she completely nailed the classic look
Oh
of
my
this.
goodness.
I mean, it looks. Ooh,
It's
man.
unbelievable. I can't wait. I want that for a feature length
Yeah, she needs to make that into a feature length film.
or anything. I don't know if she has something
Just
else she
that
wants
style.
to. Yeah,
As
just
long as it's that style.
give it to
That's
me,
yeah.
please. I want more of it. Which this one you can't see yet, I don't think, but keep an eye out for it because this is, to me, it's exciting because it's just the possibility of what we might see in the future. I'm really excited for that. Hopefully that comes to fruition and we get a horror feature from her in that
Yeah.
black and white style, playing with those silent film techniques. I want
Yeah.
it.
I saw one that I can't recommend. It's called The Lazarus Effect.
Okay.
Yeah. Directed by David Gelb. I just watched this because it's on Netflix Instant, and even though I heard bad things, I thought to myself, well, I just want to see if maybe I can figure out where this went wrong. Because it stars Olivia Wilde, Mark Duplass, Donald Glover, Evan Peters. Good cast. Good cast.
Yeah.
But man, holy crap, is this a stinker?
What happened?
I don't even understand. I'm trying to figure out how this could have gone so wrong. Was it the script? Was it something that happened in post? What happened with this movie? But it was so awful. Awful.
Really?
Yeah. So basically,
now there's a part of me who wants to watch it because I feel as though I have to look into it too.
the only thing that sets this apart from a straight to DVD generic horror movie, just bland, is the cast. And it's a good cast, but man, are they underutilized in every single way. Basically, they play a team of scientists who figure out a way to essentially reanimate the dead. And through an accident, Olivia Wilde gets killed and they bring her back to life, but it's not her.
What?
It's laughably bad. So, Lazarus Effect, cannot recommend, avoid.
I'm gonna jump around here. I'm just gonna find like some threads and whatnot because your movie had Mark Duplass and I watched a movie with Mark Duplass. Creep.
Yeah, now I saw your
Creep.
review on Letterboxd here. I take a little bit of an issue with it, but
Okay.
tell,
Creep, found footage, horror. I say that in quotes, air quotes. I don't really understand this and why it exists and what was the point of it because there's nothing for me whatsoever. I mean, I think the ending was a little bit was interesting, but then they immediately followed it up by completely ruining it with the ridiculous jump scare at the end.
yeah, I agree with that, but that
And
wasn't
then,
enough.
and then him, moving on with his life, however you want to phrase that. I don't want to give too much away, so I don't know, exactly what I can talk about, what I can't. I did not believe his character whatsoever, and I just don't believe any of this. and obviously I know it's a movie, but I couldn't get into it. Outside of Duplass, I thought Duplass was perfect for his character because that's what you need. You need that guy that seems, really friendly, but he's able to have that kind of where you keep kind of guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, plus you get the help that the movie's called Creep, but I just thought that he was absolutely perfect for that role. I do wish that maybe there was someone else because essentially this is a two-hander with two characters going on here, Mark Duplass and then the actual filmmaker Patrick Brice. And there's a part of me that thinks maybe if Patrick Brice wasn't there and it was someone else that this might have worked a bit better, because I couldn't get into his character. It was just a rough performance. He just didn't seem natural for the found footage. You know what I mean? The way that he was reacting and stuff. I just wasn't buying it.
Yeah, I didn't mind that at all in this. I actually like this, and I'm somebody who at this point is very jaded when it comes to found footage.
It is funny because I vaguely remember you talking about this movie, and I knew that it was something when we first meet Mark Duplass's character, and I'm like, when Patrick Brice gets to the house and everything, I'm like, I know Adam said that there's something really great about this, how they meet. And then all of a sudden when he pops up at the car and when he's like, oh my God. Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah, that was
fantastic.
That was the best part of the whole movie, hands down.
Which, maybe that's what is also kind of rough about it, is that happens right off the bat.
Right, right at the beginning, the funniest thing.
I don't know if we can reach that again, and unfortunately we don't.
Yeah,
but
I like this. You should check out. There's a podcast called Facing the Critics, and I don't know if you ever heard of the Twitter account Amazon Movie Reviews.
Yes, yeah,
where he posts the ridiculous. well, the guy that runs that Twitter has a podcast now, and what he does is he gets directors on and reads off the reviews for their movies, and they kind of talk about it. And in one of the episodes, he has Patrick Brice on, and they talk about the 1-star Amazon reviews that they got. It's really interesting. I recommend checking that podcast out.
That's great, actually.
Yeah, he has Riley Stearns on there. He has Rodney Asher on there. He has Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. He's got a lot of people on there.
I might have to check that out. That sounds great.
Yeah, check that out. All right, let's see. What do I have on my list here? Sorry, I gotta pull it back up. I saw a film called Punk Vacation from 1987.
Right.
Boy, I had a blast with this one. Oh my God. So it's basically this gang of 80s punk rockers that they leave the city and they go into this kind of sleepy desert town, and everything's fine at first because they're kind of on the outskirts. They're not bothering anybody. They're just the people of the town don't even know they're there. They're just sticking with themselves. But one day, one of the punk rock guys goes to this gas station to get himself a soda, and there's no orange soda. And then, to make matters worse, the machine eats his quarter.
Oh, fuck.
And he goes and complains, and the guy at the gas station basically pulls a shotgun on him. Things escalate. The guy the older gas station owner ends up getting killed, and a kind of a war breaks out between the people of this town and this gang of punks. And it's just utterly ridiculous in every sense, and I loved it. I thought it was just a blast.
Now, where were you able to see this?
Oh, so this I saw on exploitation.tv.
That's what I was figuring.
The Vinegar Syndrome. Now, they did release a remastered version of this on Blu-ray. I believe Vinegar Syndrome actually released it, so you can pick it up if you don't have the streaming service.
Because this is like one of those fun watches.
Yeah, I mean, it's gloriously 80s. I mean, it's just gloriously. The dialogue is so weird and awful, but it's I had a blast with it. One of my favorite lines And this might not be as funny because it comes out of nowhere. And the gas station owner gets in this argument with his daughter, and she kind of leaves, and he just goes, "Ever since she joined the Chamber of Commerce." You're just like, what?
I have heard that does really change a person.
Yeah.
Once you get in with the Chamber of Commerce, you start becoming all uppity.
Yeah. I don't really know if that's true, but yeah,
No,
sure.
I'm just making that up. I don't know anyone that's in the Chamber of Commerce.
My girlfriend worked for the Chamber of Commerce for a while. It didn't really make her uppity, but maybe that's different because she actually worked.
Now, see, don't you get sad now that you found out about this line after her working there, that you can't use it?
Well, she was watching it with me, and she was like, "What?" It was so funny. But
because imagine if you saw Punk Vacation way back before she started working at the Chamber, you'd be throwing that line around.
Oh, I'd be throwing it around. Yeah, exactly. It is unfortunate. I'd be throwing that line around everywhere.
Oh man, the timing just was off.
That unfortunately.
I'm sorry for you.
Yeah, still had a good time with the movie.
Okay, since you had a good time, I'll go with one that I didn't have a good time with, and that's 5 centimeters per second. This is an animated feature, Japanese, from Makoto Shinka, and this is relatively short. It's from 2007. It's only like a little bit over an hour long, but oh my goodness, there is so much sentimentality in here that it's to the point where it almost asphyxiated me, because it just keeps shoving it down your goddamn throat. It is so overwrought. It is just that saccharine melodrama that I just can't stand. And it was just that over and over and over again with the music too. And it's like it's broken up into 3 stories, right? It's like 3 chapters. And what it centers around is these 8th graders that meet and instantly fall in love. So you have that. You're dealing with 8th graders, all right? So like that's pretty damn annoying to begin with. You know what I mean? Like they get into the melodramatic like romance and love and all that. And you're like, you're in fucking 8th grade. Shut up. So you got that going on. You have the music with the piano and this trying to make you feel things. It's just not working, and so much of the dialogue is just god awful. Like there's one where she's talking about this guy that showed her some attention, and she's like, "Oh, if I was a dog, he would have known how happy I was because my tail would have been wagging." And you're just like, "What the fuck am I watching?" Like, I'm a grown man. What am I watching? What is this? And the thing that really got me, right, is the main reason I checked this out is because of all the rave reviews. Like everyone on Letterboxd just about is like 4 stars, 4.5 stars. Oh, it's such an emotional experience. It makes you feel so many different emotions. It's unbelievable. How can they jam pack that much into just an hour-long movie? Oh, and the animation is so unbelievably gorgeous. And for me, number one, the animation is basic. It's not impressive whatsoever. Now, the animation of the backdrops and the backgrounds, they're pretty fantastic. I'll give you that. They do look beautiful. But the actual animation of the characters and stuff, it's basic stuff. It's just bare bones. I don't understand anything about this movie. And how you could see that it has redeeming factors or qualities, because I didn't see any. I don't know if I watched the wrong one, if there's another 5 centimeters per second out there, and I got the wrong one by accident, like the kiddie version. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I cannot recommend this. And this is maybe one of the worst things I saw this year.
That's a shame.
I hated it. Like my body just kept rejecting it. Every time someone would open their mouth or I'd hear that terrible piano, it's just like my body was like, no, stop it. But I powered on, mostly because it was only an hour long. Like if it was 2 hours long, I would have turned that shit off and sent it back.
Yeah. How did you see this one?
I got this DVD from Netflix. Instantly regret that decision.
And that's 5 centimeters per second. I saw one that I also don't recommend, and that's Tremors 5 Bloodlines.
Really? Tremors 5 is not a recommend.
Here's what I'll say about Tremors 5. And this is the only positive that I'm going to say about it. It's not as bad as any of the other sequels.
Okay.
I'll say that.
No.
Now, I love the first Tremors. Love it. It will always have a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
But the sequels, even as a youngster, when I saw Tremors 2, when that came out, I hated it. I hated Tremors 2, even as a kid. Could not stand it. The fact that they changed them and made them have legs and walk above ground,
Yeah,
I thought that was just stupid.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, I hated all the sequels. This one is the best of them. It's still not good. It stars freaking Jamie Kennedy.
That was going to be my first question.
Yeah, he's terrible in it. He plays this he plays this like extreme sports motocross guy, and he's awful. The other slightly positive I'll say is that the effects work was not nearly as bad as I fully expected it to be. I thought that it was going to be Sharknado levels of special effects, and it wasn't. They weren't horrible. They weren't great, but they were a lot better than I expected them to be as far as the effects work.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's pretty much it as far as positives. Everything else was stupid. I feel like they just didn't, with the sequels, they didn't understand what made the first one great. You know, there are certain scenes that I can talk about in the first Tremors, like the boardwalk scene, you know, where it's when it's going underneath the boardwalk and you see the boards all popping up in like a wave. Scenes like that are kind of, to me, iconic, where it's like when you first see that, you remember it. Like, that's the one big scene. These movies, it's just stupid. It's just dumb crap that happens.
Yeah.
And it's not memorable. Oh, one other positive. They kept the style, like the font and title, how they did the title in the original one. They brought that back for this one. So it kind of has this almost retro 80s look to it, or 90s.
The biggest positive for this movie is they kept the font.
Yeah.
It's a good choice.
I like that they did that. It was
yeah,
cool.
but you know what I mean? Like when one of the biggest positive of the film is the font choice.
Oh yeah, exactly. You're grasping at straws at that point. Yeah, I can't say anything else about this. It's just not.
I want to rewatch Tremors so bad.
It's fantastic.
I love Tremors.
It holds up. It holds up incredibly well. The sequel's not so much. This one takes place in South Africa, so that's kind of interesting too. But yeah, not great. Not great. This one you can watch it on Netflix Instant. So check it out if you want. If you liked any of the sequels though, if you like Tremors 2 or 3 or 4, you might want to check this one out because it is better than those.
Okay. All right. I watched something else that was disappointing. Jigoku. This is a horror film from 1960. This is on Criterion. So I figured Criterion's got to be good. 1960, Japanese horror film. It's got this surreal depiction of hell. Okay, let's get into it. It takes forever to get to hell, first off. And it involves this Shiro guy he's engaged, and there's a hit and run, and then like his guilt gets to him, and then essentially everywhere he goes, people die. Like everyone just dies. And then they're all different types of sinners. So they all meet in hell, and hell is this empty space with this like white flat river that has like fog rolling off of it. And then there's different things that you have to do in hell. Like the one guy gets flayed constantly, which some of the effects work that they use for this is, for 1960, it's pretty. They show a guy, they pull the cover off of him, and it's just his head there, and he's screaming. There's a lot of screaming at the end. I mean, it's hell, so everyone's just screaming. So it's just his head there, and he's screaming, and his body is just all the skin's missing. So all you see is the bones and all the organs and stuff, it was quite impressive. There's a couple of things like people getting cut in half and whatnot. But the thing that I wasn't ready for was apparently in 1960, the depiction of hell, at least for this director, apparently it's just a guy, numerous people running around and shouting out names, just yelling names over and over and over again, just yelling names left and right, just an endless parade of yelling names to the point where Holy shit, is it annoying.
Mm.
It is so, and the unfortunate thing is you have all this surreal imagery going on where it's like every time that something pops up where you're like, oh my God, look at this. Look at this. This is fantastic. Immediately someone yells the name and you're just like, shut the fuck up. I'm trying to enjoy your surreal depiction of hell. Can you shut your mouth? And then someone else will yell out a name. And then another guy will yell out the same name 14 times in a row. And you just want it to end. I just want it to end. But there is a funny, like I said, he get everywhere he goes, people die. He's on a rope bridge, right? And this woman confronts him and wants to kill him. She has a gun, everything. So she takes one step on the rope bridge, completely loses her balance. I mean, she's apparently never walked on a rope bridge before, and just falls over the rope bridge to her death. And the best part is that immediately when she falls, everything about her falling is hilarious because it's just one step and then she somehow just tumbles over the edge of the rope bridge for some reason. And so they immediately overhead cut of her falling, and what you can tell is clearly a dummy just flailing like a rag doll.
I love that.
And they keep it on, and they even have it when it like hits the rocks below and it kind of ricochets off of all the rocks. And it's hilarious. And then the funny thing is that then another guy comes out and they get into a bit of a scuffle, and he also falls off the rope bridge. And apparently they were so happy with the effects of the first fall that they did the exact same thing for the second one. And that one's just as hilarious.
God. So it sounds like that one does not hold up.
No, it doesn't. No, a lot of it is very funny. Very funny.
Speaking of time, I saw Back in Time, which was a documentary about Back to the Future.
Okay.
So it kind of looked at the phenomenon of the films, and it was sort of like a making of, but then it also talked a lot about the fandom and the people that build their own DeLorean time machines and kind of the impact of the films on our culture and all this stuff. But man, this is amateur hour. This movie is very, very poorly put together, and I feel bad because I backed this on Kickstarter. Ooh. But yeah, this was one of our Kickstart Sunday picks. It started off different, I believe. I think that they ended up changing the content of this. But anyway, it's divided into parts, but there's really no reason for the parts because they jump around so much that there really is no structure. Because it starts with part 1, and that's supposed to be about the movie, and then part 2 is supposed to be about the fans, but it's just a mishmash. It mixes everything together throughout. So there's no point in having parts to it because it's all just thrown together. They interview Leah Thompson, Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Robert Zemeckis. So they get everybody from the movie involved with it, which is good. They get Bob Gale in there too, and Steven Spielberg. So they got all the big players, but there's just not a whole lot here. There's just not. It's not interesting. Like learning about the people that build DeLorean time machines is just not that interesting. You can briefly touch on it, but for it to sustain a whole documentary, it's just
That's the problem with a lot of documentaries.
One interesting thing I learned, probably the most interesting thing I learned, is that in the original script for Back to the Future, the end of the film was supposed to be a scene, basically the nuke the fridge scene in Indiana Jones, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I never saw that movie.
Yeah, but you've heard the term nuke the fridge, right?
I guess. No.
Well, so one of the most infamous scenes in that film was when Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones finds out that he's at a nuclear test site, and it's there's this city that's built to look like a 50s style city, and they're about to test a nuclear bomb. And to avoid getting blown up, he gets inside of a refrigerator, and the bomb goes off, and he survives by hiding in a fridge, and that's where the term "nuke the fridge" comes from. turns out that that scene was actually in the original version, in the original script for Back to the Future.
Yeah.
But they took it out because it was ridiculous. So that was really the most interesting thing that I got from Back in Time. This again is available on Netflix Instant, but even as a fan of Back to the Future, I can't recommend this one. I think that there's probably on like the Blu-rays or whatever, there's probably a making of for each of them.
Yeah.
I would probably rather just watch that.
And
Dan Harmon is in this for some reason. And I mean, they talk about Rick and Morty too, because Rick and Morty is basically a riff on Back to the Future. It was inspired by Back to the Future. And they talk to Dan Harmon, and at one point he's like, let's be honest, parts 2 and 3 sucked. And it's like, why would you put that in this movie that's supposed to be celebrating the Back to the Future movies?
Yeah.
Why would you have him in there talking about how shitty the sequels are? Which is untrue, by the way. I think the second one's the best. But anyway. Yeah. And I've read on letterboxed a lot of people complaining about Dan Harmon's the interviews with him, because they were they're weird. They're definitely weird.
Huh.
But yeah, can't recommend it.
I can recommend something, and this was I haven't rewatched something in quite some time. It's been a while since I do some rewatches. I watched Fargo yesterday.
Man, the second season of
show.
And
I think this is finally going to propel me into watching
watching
the show. I think this is what I needed to get into it, because we popped Fargo on because it was leaving Netflix Instant. I think it left today, so we were like, oh, we have one day left to watch Fargo. Let's pop Fargo on there. And I haven't seen it in a while, and I like Fargo, but I didn't quite remember how great Fargo is, to the point where I don't know if there's anything negative I can say about Fargo.
Nah, it's I wouldn't throw the term masterpiece around a lot. I mean, I don't, but I think
it's pretty
Fargo for me that's a near masterpiece, if not.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. And Deacon's cinematography in Fargo is, oh boy, is it good. There's just so much greatness going on. All the performances are fantastic. The story itself is great. The writing is fantastic. The cinematography, the music. I mean, there's really nothing there's really no aspects here that I can really say anything bad about.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely need to see the show. The show is so surprising in just how incredible it really is. I mean, it feels like you're watching a movie every week.
Yeah.
And the second season is, to me, so far, it's just as good as the first. Maybe the first kind of still outshines it because nobody really knew how good it was going to be or if it was going to work at all.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was kind of the big surprise about the first season, is just how good it was. The second season, to me, the second season takes place in the 70s, which immediately makes me love it. It also has Bokeem Woodbine doing the accent. Yeah.
What? Are you serious that he does the accent?
He does it. Well, he's from Kansas City. His character's from Kansas City. So he does this kind of, it's not quite the accent, but it's like kind of an offshoot of it, because he's not from there, but he's from kind of around. It's really interesting.
Now, the only thing that I can say negative about Fargo is that, and this is more so on my part, is after I watch Fargo, I tend to speak like that for like the rest of the day, which really annoyed my wife, which was another reason that I kept doing it.
Yeah, of course.
So, I just kept saying, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think I'm going to birth.
Steve Buscemi in that movie, too. Oh my goodness, I love you, Fargo.
Yeah, it's just it's great. It's that perfect blend of comedy and crime thriller. It's great.
Darkness.
Yeah, and the cast that they get for the show is fantastic too. The new season has Patrick Wilson and Ted Danson, and Kieran Culkin was in the first episode, and it's great. Kirsten Dunst is in the second season too, and the one guy who I always forget who he is from Breaking Bad, that I like pretty much everything I've seen him in. He's in it too, and yeah, great stuff. Fargo, fantastic movie, fantastic show. I saw one this will be the last one I talk about today. This was kind of an interesting one. This is also available on Netflix Instant. It's called Circle. It actually came out just a few weeks ago. But the premise is 50 people wake up standing in a circle.
Okay.
And there are these lighted red... They're standing on these lighted red circles on the floor.
Okay.
If you move off the circle, they find out pretty quickly. If you move off the circle, you die. You get electrocuted. There's this kind of black dome thing in the middle of the circle that zaps you if you move off the circle. Now, every 2 minutes, these lights that have these kind of arrows on them on the floor, they'll start spinning around. And when it stops, whoever it stops on, they will get killed. They'll get electrocuted. And the group eventually finds out that it's essentially voting. You're voting for who you want to die, and whoever gets the most votes gets killed. So it's basically about this group of people figuring out, how can we get out of here? Who should we save? Who should we kill? And it gets into like a lot of these kind of, like social political issues, like, do we kill the old people? Do we kill the disabled person? And then there's like race gets involved where somebody wants to kill, the minority person because he looks like he's a gangbanger, or somebody who may be a drug addict, or somebody who is like one of the ladies had cancer, but she's in remission. And it's kind of them trying to figure out who to save and who to kill. So pretty interesting premise. I mean, it's a movie that takes place in one location with a group of actors who are not moving.
Yeah. So
visually, they did what they could, but it's still pretty boring. And because it's a black room, too, the room is completely black.
Yeah.
So all you have is total darkness, black room, and then these red lights on the floor. If you see the poster, that's exactly what it looks like throughout the whole movie. So with a movie like this, it completely hinges upon the performances of the actors, and they're not great. They're average at best. Some people are better than others. I mean, it's a big cast. However, a lot of them don't have any speaking lines because they get zapped before they can even talk. But it's pretty much done in real time too. So it's it's kind of an interesting experiment. I've seen a lot of people compare it to Cube or Exam.
Yeah.
I liked it less than Cube because Cube had more going on. There was more of a mystery to Cube where there were different rooms and they were trying to figure out the traps and stuff like that, and each person had their own strengths and weaknesses. So Cube I thought was way better. Exam, maybe it's more in line with Exam, but I kind of liked it. I'd kind of recommend it. It was an interesting premise.
It does sound interesting.
Yeah, it's very simple, but I didn't like the end. That was one thing that kind of brought it down for me. The other big thing with movies like this is the big reveal, the big finale has to be something pretty spectacular to make it feel worth it.
Yeah.
And I thought that the end was a little lackluster.
Gotcha.
But you can check this out on Netflix Instant. It's available now. It's called Circle.
All right. Well, I'm going to be honest here. This watch list is taking a while, man. We watched a lot of movies. I got 3 left, so I'm just going to rattle through them real quick.
Yeah, just rattle.
It's going to be quick. All right.
Just rattle.
I got a Venezuelan horror, suspense, thriller, whatever you want to call it. I saw this on Hulu, which is the first time I ever watched a movie on Hulu that wasn't a Criterion. So that was different. It's called The House at the End of Time. It's kind of interesting. Apparently in this house, whenever it's 11, 11, 11, right? Date, that. And then the time is also 11, 11, 11. Got them 6 11s going. And then at that time, all the time frames of the world, whatever, exist at the same time. So you're interacting with the old you and the new you and the future you or some shit. I don't know. Everything turns into a mess. It's kind of interesting, but for the most part, doesn't really work that well. It has really an amateurish quality to it. It kind of looks like a TV movie. It's a bit rough. I mean, there's some good ideas going on in there, but execution of it, bit too much. Plus, it gets pretty contrived towards the end. I mean, out of control. like I said earlier, I watched The Machinist, which, number one, it was really difficult to look at Christian Bale like that for an entire movie because that
Yeah,
shit is disgusting.
a little gaunt in that one.
Yeah, and then he fucking does he like moves his body and shit, and
Yeah.
it's like wearing shirts for some reason. It's good, God. And he has a goatee. It's nothing worse than having a goatee. I think the goatee was actually the worst part. This I thought it was okay. I'm not like a huge fan of these types of movies with him,
Kind of paranoid thriller.
paranoid thriller, and you know that the entire time you're just getting clues left and right, and then you're just kind of waiting for the end for them to, essentially you're just waiting around like, okay, well, tell me how all this comes together, and then they do, and you're like, oh, okay, that was all right.
Moving on.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay. It's like you don't have to draw it out that long. Like, let's just make it like 20 minutes. Just get it over with. Because the like at number one, I couldn't stand the music. Just thought it was awful. The acting wasn't that great, and I don't know. It didn't really come together for me in the end. So it's like an on that one. And then the last one, which I actually wrote a review for, so I won't talk about it much, and that's Funny Bunny. That at some point in time will come out this year, maybe, or next year. I don't know. Alison Bagnall is the director. Has Kentucker Audley in there, Ali Alexander, and Jocelyn Jensen. And I recommend this one. So like a light recommend. So whenever this one comes out, it's got that heavy on the quirk. It's just fucking quirk everywhere. But I think for me at least, it was kind of deployed in a different manner, a lot different than usually when you're looking at indie comedies that just pile on quirk. They just pile it on top of you until you die.
Is that like a comedy?
It's kind of like maybe like there might be some stuff that makes you chuckle, but it's mostly a drama.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's mostly just sad, fragile people.
And that is Funny Bunny.
Funny Bunny.
Not out right now.
Not out right now, but that's why it's for future reference. Keep an eye on it.
Yep. Okay, let's talk about some movie predictions. Last week, Burnt, you said 32, I said 46. Actual 29 on Burnt.
Ooh.
Yeah, not too good. And Our Brand is Crisis. You said 52, I said 56. Actual 33. Yeah, so not too good. I didn't see anything this week in theaters, so I might try to go catch something today. I did not see Love as I planned to. Yeah, things got in the way, but it's playing right like a block away from me at the indie theater, so I'm gonna try to go see it. It's in 3D there too, so I might actually pay to go see it. And next week we have the Peanuts movie. What are you thinking about the Peanuts movie?
No thanks.
I'm actually interested in this one. I think it looks. I like the animation style a lot, so I'll go ahead and predict this one. I'm gonna say 76 on the Peanuts movie.
I'm gonna go 72.
Okay. And we also have Spectre.
Spectre. I'm probably gonna see some Spectre.
Yeah. Now you were a big fan of Skyfall, as was I.
I enjoyed it.
I thought that it was a really interesting direction that they took Mr. Bond in. So what are you thinking on Spectre?
Spectre, I'm thinking 74.
Now, it should be noted that Sam Mendes back to direct this one in limited release next week. We have Brooklyn.
Okay.
Not too interested in this one, honestly. I believe it's a period drama.
Yeah.
The Hallow. That's good. I saw that one. It's kind of a creature feature. I talked about it a couple weeks ago. The Outskirts. Not too sure about what that one's all about. Spotlight and Trumbo. Mildly interested in Trumbo.
Trumbo looks like it's not going to be good.
I'm mildly interested. On Video on Demand next week, we have Bleeding Heart, The Hallow, Lost in the Sun. That's the one with Josh Duhamel. The Condemned 2. I don't understand why it took them so long. First, I don't understand why that exists. Secondly, I don't understand why it took them like 10 years to come out with a sequel. That was the one with Stone Cold Steve Austin in the original.
Oh,
Some other wrestler is starring in this one.
Nice.
Wrecker, I don't really know what Wrecker is either. And Hot Sugar's Cold World. I'll be checking that one out. I'm interested in that one. Produced by David Gordon Green, Jody Hill.
Okay. All right.
It's a documentary, but it looks quite good. I think you might be interested in that one too, Kevin, actually.
You don't know what I'm interested in.
You're right, I don't.
Don't even try and guess.
Next week on Blu-ray, Inside Out. If you haven't seen it, I'd say light recommend for me on Inside Out. Toy Story That Time Forgot. I saw this one. We'll be doing a Blu-ray review on this one. I liked it. The Toy Story straight to video or TV specials have been pretty damn good. I liked the Halloween one they did a few years back. The animation style, I mean, it is Pixar doing it, and they get all the original voices back, so it's the same quality as the movies. So, yeah, recommend that one. Mannequin, coming out on Blu-ray. Nice.
Oh, my God, yes.
Draft House Films is releasing Roar on Blu-ray.
Oh,
we have Vacation, which do not see that one. What a disappointment. The Final Girls, I recommend that one. Had a really, really fun time with that one. Probably one of the best horror movies I've seen this year. Let's see, what else do we have? The End of the Tour. Mild interest in that one. That's the one with Jason Segel and Jesse Eisenberg. Bloodsucking Bastards, yet another horror comedy. This one's about vampires. Can't recommend it. It's with Fran Kranz. Lego Brickumentary. Light recommend on that one. It's the Lego documentary that's narrated by Jason Bateman. Before We Go, that's the one with Chris Evans and Alice Eve. Doesn't look very good, but haven't seen it. Stung, another horror comedy that I actually do recommend about giant wasps. What else do we got here? Just going through the list. Alex of Venice, The Diabolical. That's a horror movie that just came out like a week ago. Haven't heard good things. Food Chains, yet another food doc. And that's pretty much it. Anything on the Criterion front?
We have one, and that's an Eclipse series box set, number 44. Julian DeVivier in the 30s. So we got, what is this? Four movies from 1930 up to 1937. This is apparently right after he went into his transition into the talkies, from the silence to the talkies, which apparently he did with ease. So there you go.
Cool.
I know nothing about that, so I'll just keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, I guess check that out if you're interested. Also, Arrow is releasing Tenderness of the Wolves from 1973 on Blu-ray.
Did you say Tenderness of the Wolves?
Yeah.
Wolves.
Yeah.
Like actual wolves?
Wolves.
Is this like a horror movie?
I believe so.
Because that, number one, that is a great title. And second, I just want to see it.
It's got a great cover, too, by the way. All right. I think that is going to do it for the week. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can send us your questions. Podcast@filmpulse.net is the address. You can follow us on Twitter @FilmPulseNet and @FilmPulseKevin. And if you get a minute, take a look at our Patreon page, patreon.com/FilmPulse. Consider helping us out by becoming a subscriber, and you can get the whole episode at the beginning of the week rather than the end of the week. For Kevin Rakeshaw, my name's Adam Patterson. We'll see you on Ryan Watches a Movie.